to all our viewers and participating organizations. This is the session 2 on education that we are having. Even during our 2-day live competition, as in with everybody's physical presence, we used to have our education category always in the afternoon so that everybody gets rejuvenated with the absolutely fantastic presentations, and the teachers are so enthusiastic that it brightens up anybody's day. And with it, of course, we miss out the children, as we have children also participating and making their own contribution. So we are missing that. Nevertheless, we have stalwarts here from the education sector presenting to you their best practices, and hope everybody will have a great learning from this particular session. Before we start our presentations with 5 of our organizations, I would like to play a video or an address from one of the principals who has implemented the IMC Ramakrishna Bajaj Quality Award Performance Excellence category very rigorously in her institution. Despite all constraints, that college has showcased some very good practices. So she's Dr. Deepa Sharma, principal with the MD Shah Mahila College of Arts and Commerce, Mumbai. And she has a nice message to give all of us. So before we begin the session, let's play her video for the benefit of all our viewers. Thank you so much.
Namaste. It gives me immense pleasure to talk about IMC Ramakrishna Bajaj National Quality Award. Our college had volunteered for the award and we got Performance Excellence Trophy. Our college caters to women from disadvantaged society of the section of the society, and I'm very proud to say that because of the award process, our students are reaping the benefits. Because of the award process, we have made some permanent changes in our college. We have a performance excellence system. We have conscious steps taken for reduction in cycle time and processes like issuing of LC, issuing of concession, results, etc. Many green initiatives have been taken by the college. We have solar, we have rainwater harvesting, we have, and all done in minimal cost, just by taking help of our own staff. So the process makes you aware, makes you sensitive to the various initiatives that one can take to benefit the students. So our college has tremendously benefited from the process. Now, Making Quality Happen competition is another forum where one can learn from cross-industry learning. Our college, again, I would say, benefited because we, in one of the forums, somebody talked about incubation center, and our college, even though it is Arts and Commerce College, we have an incubation center now, and again, so many students are trained in that center, making a difference to people's lives. We also have taken many skill development initiatives because of the cross-industry learning that happens in Making Quality Happen. So Making Quality Happen is another forum where one can learn, and ultimately the IMC RBNQA process makes you aware that sky is the limit. One can learn a lot and one can continue learning, and of course the benefit goes to the society. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a wonderful message from Dr. Deepa Sharma. We will now proceed to the education category presentations. Before that, I would like to introduce the judges for today's session. We have with us he has just been conferred with a doctorate recently. So Dr. Dashrath Raj Shetty, Deputy QMR, MIR, Manipal Academy of Higher Education. Welcome, sir, for this wonderful session, and very apt person we have as a judge for this session. A few words from you, sir?
Thank you, madam. It's always a pleasure to be associated with RBNQA, and each time I interact with you or maybe participate in each of your events, it's a great learning experience for me. Hope to have a fruitful session. Welcome to all of you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Can we now move on to the second judge, Mr. Suhas Vaidya? Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello. Oh,
So,
good.
Mr.
I'm good. How are
Vaidya,
you?
yeah, just a little bit. Mr. Suhas Vaidya is company secretary with Dufflon Industries Private Limited. Nice to have you here, sir, and for your time to our
Thank you.
process.
Thank you.
You have anything to say, sir?
No, I just gone through the presentations and they are amazing. All of them
Wow,
are
great. So, our
great work in a great direction. All the
absolutely
best to
great.
all.
So I think our institutions will be very, very motivated. Thank you, sir, for that. So now we begin with our first presentation. Can we move on to our presentation? So I would like to introduce the presenters. We have with us Mr. Shriyans Madhikunta, student, and Miss Padmarani Srivatsan, teacher.
Yeah.
Hi, Shriyans, how are you?
Good afternoon. I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. And Miss Padmarani Srivatsan, teacher. Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. Hello, hello. How are you all?
Yeah,
good afternoon.
very good. Thank you so much. The presenters are from Global Indian International School, East Coast Campus, Singapore. I'm sure you will go through a lovely session with these stalwarts, I would say, of the excellence framework in their institute. So let's have the presentation on, Natasha.
A very good afternoon to one and all. I'm Shriyans Madhikunta from class 8 ACBSC and I'm representing Global Indian International School, East Coast Campus, Singapore. Our campus spreads across about 8 acres nestled in nature that creates a healthy environment conducive to learning that embraces our environmental resources. Our green practices are a symbol of the vision, mission, and core values of our school. We all know that it takes over 400 years for a plastic bottle to break down. Research tells us that in Asia, an average person uses about 20 kilograms of plastic every year. So at GIIS East Coast campus, we decided to do a surgical strike on this harmful and non-biodegradable material known as plastic. We call ourselves the plastic surgeons. Please sit back and enjoy a short video featuring our green efforts. As you can see from the video, our green warriors start right from kindergarten all the way up to grade 8, including all our teachers and support staff. As responsible students, we need to carefully examine the challenges plastic presents and implement strategies that are likely to reduce the amount of environmental damage they cause. At our campus, we have taken it upon ourselves to phase out single-use plastic in our bin liners. This may sound like a small step, but the impact it has comes in leaps and bounds. Before we get to the numbers, I would like to share our very simple yet impactful process. We've always practiced segregating wet and dry trash across the whole school. Students are encouraged to compost raw kitchen waste and not to waste food. However, this is not enough. We can do more to reduce single-use plastic. According to a study, only 1% of plastic bin liners are returned for recycling. The rest end up in landfills or as litter. We noticed that there was an unnecessary use of plastic bin liners in the kindergarten classrooms, where little trash is generated since students attend school only for 3 hours. As such, plastic lined bins are hardly filled before they are removed for disposal, even in other classrooms of the school. Some of the best practices already in place at our campus are biodiversity and greenery in school, energy and water conservation, and reduction of single-use plastic, to name a few. Based on these practices, we formulated an innovative alternative to plastic bin liners, such as newspaper bin liners. Our action plan consisted of a few simple steps like continuing to segregate wet and dry trash just as before, and also teaching students, teachers and support staff how to make bin liners using newspaper, minimizing food waste going to classroom bins, and discouraging the use of non-biodegradable plastic bin liners. Next up, we have a short video featuring the steps on how to make a newspaper bin liner. You need a newspaper of about this size. Take this side and make a triangular fold like this. The remaining part has to be folded backwards. Now flip the paper once again. Take this side and fold it to this side, and this side to this side, a kind of cross fold. And finally, take the remaining two flaps and fold them in the opposite directions. And that's it. Your newspaper bin liner is ready. As we are so used to the convenience of using plastic, changing the mindset of our school community was the biggest challenge. But together, we were united to phase out single-use plastic at our campus, and everyone, including our support staff, were enthusiastic to make the change. Workshops for our stakeholders were conducted. All of us were really excited to embark on this journey. In no time, newspaper bin liners were largely implemented in the classrooms and activity rooms. At GIIS East Coast Campus, we strongly believe in sharing our best practices with the community. Following our success, we were invited by the National Environment Agency, Singapore, and the Singapore Environment Council to share our best practice with the public and to the local school students of Singapore. Climate change mitigation and waste reduction efforts do not stop at only reducing single-use plastic, but we have also implemented several other practices like aerobic composting of raw kitchen waste and likewise shared them at various platforms. Our efforts in reducing single-use plastic alone have resulted in a positive behavioral change in our stakeholders. This positive change in everyone's thought has saved a whopping 1,839 plastic bags from April 2019 to March 18, 2020. This means that we have successfully reduced 60 to 61 kilograms, that forms the carbon footprint this plastic would have generated, and also managed to save ourselves money. We reached out to the public through our community outreach programs and trained all of our stakeholders to make the repurposed bin liners. A best practice does not have to be selfish. We can work towards benefiting more than ourselves as individuals, but the environment that has given us so much to be grateful for. This topic is so important for us because single-use plastic consumes a significant amount of non-renewable resources, harms our wildlife, our waterways, and the oceans. We can make a huge difference today by adopting practical alternatives in order to reduce the impact of our carbon footprint and save money. Next up, we have some of the testimonials by our student council members. Neeti Upadhyay, our head girl, says, "I'm really inspired by the Zero Plastic initiative of my school and take my own steps towards contributing to this project. Whenever I go to the supermarket, I carry my own cloth bag instead of getting home the plastic bags they provide at the markets." For our journey towards the sustainable living, our campus was awarded the Wanda Miss Joachim, the Best Outreach and the Best 3R Awards by the Singapore Environment Council, while our teacher was also given an appreciation by the World Wildlife Fund Singapore. These are some of the important awards and recognitions received by us under this field. Some of the awards received by us from the year 2017 to 2019. Apart from these tangible rewards, the greatest benefit comes from knowing that we are actively reducing our carbon footprint and thus doing our part for the greater community. The beauty of this practice is that it can be implemented by anyone, anywhere, and at almost no cost. we challenge all of you to adopt this best practice and help mitigate climate change. I would like to end our presentation by quoting Jane Goodall, a famous primatologist who once said, "You cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make." So ladies and gentlemen, keep on making a difference. Thank you and have a good day. Stay home, stay safe.
Wow, that was interesting. We will now take on the presentation of Sri Vishnu Education Society, Hyderabad. We have with us as presenter Dr. V.V.R. Maheshwara Rao. He's professor with the institute. Hello, sir. How are you?
How are you,
sir?
Fine,
Welcome.
fine.
Welcome to the MQH 2.0, and thank you so much for your participation, and hope you have an interesting session today, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon to one and all.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. May I have the presentation of Sri Vishnu Education Society?
I, Dr. V.V.R. Maheshwara, on behalf of Sri Vishnu Educational Society, extending hearty welcome to the session judges, IMC team and other delegates. Today, I am extremely delighted to present best practice of Sri Vishnu Educational Society, empowerment of rural school children and women through education by Padma Bhushan Dr. B.V. Raju Knowledge Center, in short, Knowledge Center. For the next 10 minutes, this is my presentation roadmap. I start with about Sri Vishnu Educational Society. Then I focus on proposed best practice with all its activities. Subsequently, I present the proven results of knowledge centers. Finally, I conclude with why it is best practice. The Sri Vishnu Educational Society is established in 1992 by Padma Bhushan Dr. B.V. Raju Garu. He is an eminent personality in the cement industry and former chairperson of Cement Corporation of India. He awarded with Padma Shri and Padma Bhushan. The society has 12 institutions in the state of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Includes engineering, medical sciences, basic sciences and K-12 schools, having more than 15,000 students. The excellent vision and foresight of our founder chairman resulted Sri Vishnu Educational Society with 2 arms: academic excellence and research, community development and charity. To give shape to these ideas, on one arm, established many institutions which are playing a vital role in modeling the future of thousands of students year after year. On the other arm, started societal development programs to serve the needy people. The present chairman, Sri K.V. Vishnu Raju, is the grandson of founder chairman. He carries the torch of vision of his grandfather. Presently, he is working constantly and tirelessly to accomplish the twin responsibilities of Sri Vishnu Educational Society by reinforcing vision of the founder chairman, ensuring strong leadership, ecosystem to deliver out-of-box thinking. About Dr. B.V. Raju Knowledge Center. Community development as one significant strategy of Sri Vishnu Educational Society. In continuation to the legacy of social responsibility, the present chairman transformed the ancestral house of founder chairman as a knowledge center in the year 2006. The main aim of this center is to provide quality primary education to rural students, as witnessing the lack of lab facilities in government schools. This results the birth of knowledge center. Currently, 2 knowledge centers are established, one at Kumuduvalli in Andhra Pradesh, 2 Narsapur in Telangana state. The objectives of Knowledge Center: to create inquisitiveness among the rural school children in physical and biological sciences, to provide practical exposure in the science subjects, to help the students to explore various dimensions of education through well-stocked library, to create basic awareness of computer applications in day-to-day life, to enable the rural women towards usage of technology. At the Knowledge Center, we have different services. The primary service is to provide quality education to rural students, conduct talent tests, conduct science fair, organize summer training program, provide computer training for rural women, offer dental oral checkup. Development of academic infrastructure at knowledge centers. These knowledge centers have the capacity to accommodate 120 students with the facilities: seminar hall with audio-visual teaching aids, state-of-art computer lab, English language lab, mathematics laboratory, robotics laboratory, physics laboratory, chemistry laboratory, biological sciences laboratories, free transportation facility, open-air auditorium, high-speed internet access, generator backup, modern library. In addition to that, a dedicated, experienced teaching team is appointed to educate the students rightly. Deployment of knowledge centers. The schools are selected on the basis of lack of lab and computer facilities from rural areas of ZPH and municipal high schools within the radius of 15 kilometers from our knowledge centers. The schedules of the knowledge centers are prepared in such a way that, in accordance to the respective academic calendars of the schools, and the same are sent to schools in a week advance. They will be reminded a day before. On the day, knowledge center bus will send to the schools to pick up the students. On arrival, the students are usually divided into 3 or 4 groups depending on the strength. Initially, the experiments that are going to be done will be explained through the LCD projector, and then they will be taken to the labs. After completing the experiments, they will be taken to the library. Some of the moral stories and important news from the newspapers will be explained by our teachers. Subject teachers of the concerned school will also accompany their students in performing the learning activities at Knowledge Center. During this time, snacks also provided for all. Then they will be taken back to the school by our buses. In the afternoon session, another allotted school students will be brought to the knowledge centers, and the same is followed. In the same way, the knowledge center plans the schedules for all services well in advance, and same is circulated to all the stakeholders. The activities are implemented and monitored by the respective dedicated teams in the knowledge centers. Towards that, SVES ensures quality of services offered by the knowledge centers with clearly articulated quality policies according to its mission and values, and the same is also effectively deployed horizontally and vertically to all rural community. Monitoring of knowledge centers. The SLT, Senior Leadership Team of SVS, always strives for overall improvement and sustainability and agility of the knowledge centers. Towards this, SVES designated the Knowledge Center Monitoring Committee led by a dedicated principal to keep track of all the functionalities of all the knowledge centers. Each knowledge center has dedicated high experienced teaching members. As a part of effective process monitoring, the committee prepares the schedules suitable to the ZPH and municipal schools against with their academic schedules. Share the same in advance to the identified schools. The committee also prepares the well-structured curriculum with a balance of theory and practical sessions. In addition to that, the committee conducts the continuous internal evaluation to monitor the impact on learning rate of the students by the innovative teaching learning activities of knowledge centers. Feedback is collected periodically from the students, teachers, and headmasters in the identified schools. The feedback analysis is presented to the SLT for monitoring the activities of knowledge centers. Here I am presenting various proven results of knowledge center activities. Number of schools benefited. If at all you look at the first graph, the graph indicates a sustained improvement in the number of schools benefited from the knowledge center. The second graph, it shows clearly the number of students with strong foundations. The third one will give you a steady relation between the schedules prepared by the knowledge center and academic calendars of government schools. You look at the fourth right bottom graph, oral checkup. It is evident SVS responsibility towards the community oral health. If at all you look at the talent test, the graph clearly indicates the number of students that are participating year by year. Coming to the second graph here, benefited rural women, the graph clearly indicates the number of women they are getting benefited from the knowledge centers. Coming to the third graph, participation of details in the science fair and summer training. Coming to the last one, that is the feedback analysis on the knowledge center. The results shown in the graph are clearly expressing all the stakeholders remarkably impressed with the initiatives of the knowledge center. Coming to the conclusion, the SLT at SVS comprising of several professionals having well-defined strategies in line with the VMV promoting community development and climate change. Towards that, the SVES is committed to nurture the potential rural students to the next generation team players who would contribute to the country's growth and socially responsibility citizens. The dedicated and experienced teaching staff is endorsed as a prime strength for the success journey of knowledge centers. And from the inception of the knowledge centers, the participation and involvement of school students and rural women itself stands the idea of knowledge center as a best practice in 2 Telugu states. Moreover, visit of eminent persons listed in another witness for the best practice of empowerment of rural school children and women through education. Here I have listed the eminent visitors. Lush green campuses. Sri Vishnu Educational Society having 4 campuses across 2 Telugu states. SVS ecosystem framework is represented here. We thank IMC Ramakrishna Bajaj National Quality Award Trust for this excellent opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
We'll
Thank you.
get back to you. We'll get back to you now for the later on Q&A. Yeah, later on at the end of the session. Yeah. Okay, then that was an interesting presentation. Now we follow it up with the next organization, Global Indian International School, Balwadi Campus, Pune. We have with us Ms. Vaishali Borde, National Head GMP and Co-Scholastics. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Hello, a very good afternoon to one and all present here, to the judges and to all the participants. A big thank you from my side to IMC for this MQH competition which is happening online.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, ma'am. And wish you also a wonderful presentation and
Thank
later
you.
on the interaction with the judges. So we now move on to the showcasing of your presentation. May I request for the video to be played?
Greetings to one and all from Global Indian International School, Balewadi. I am Vaishali Borde and I would like to present to you an award-winning program called Global Montessori Plus and the innovative changes that we have made to its curriculum in order to bring about change. I will talk about iCare, our environmental awareness program, which is implemented for the kindergarten. Global Montessori Plus is the kindergarten or pre-primary wing at Global Indian International School. The intent of this program is a transformative approach with hands-on, experiential and project-based activities to provide our students with a wide variety of such experiences that will engage and help them take ownership of the learning and in the process become lifelong learners as well as global citizens. Since the core of our program is the Montessori method, which is self-directed learning, we decided that instead of limiting ourselves to the traditional way of teaching EVS by having projects like Say No to Plastic or Plant Saplings or Best Out of Waste activities, we decided to create a curriculum and designed hands-on activities with emphasis on 21st century skills like communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking. Our iCare program is our attempt to educate, inspire, and empower children to protect the Earth's environment, and this is one of our best practice. Today, we will look at how our 3, 4, and 5-year-olds decided to tackle the plastic ban with the help of 3 Rs. Children in class were shown short videos of harmful effects of plastic, followed by a lot of discussions during circle time, as seen in the picture on this slide. Various ideas and solutions that children could adopt were talked about. Avoiding plastic and using metal tiffin boxes and water bottles was unanimously decided by the children. Deployment of the best practice. As a hands-on activity, students made cloth bags from their old t-shirts and pledged to use these self-made bags to carry their tiffins and water bottles daily to school. They also carried the message home and were asked to make sure that their parents also complied with this decision. The second best practice that I'm going to talk about today is helping pre-primary students to become change makers. We sensitized our children on saving the earth by simple measures like conserving water, electricity, and keeping the earth clean and green. Giving responsibility to students by making them trash monitors, energy monitors, tiffin monitor, janitor's helper, etc. helped them in creating ownership and resulted in checking littering, turning out lights when not in use, not wasting food, and not wasting water in washrooms. Simple measures like walking instead of driving, following traffic rules were emphasized so that the message went home along with the children. Students took an oath to become change makers to save the earth by making sure their parents follow simple rules in their day-to-day life. How do we monitor these best practices? Regular checking if students are carrying cloth bags was done, and frequent drilling of responsibility towards saving the earth was undertaken. Feedback from parents was taken after every quarter. As change makers, we asked our children to check. As change makers, we checked if the activities that were undertaken in school were followed at home. In order to do this, a simple questionnaire was sent home to see whether the message reached home and whether the parents were ready to adapt to new thoughts. The results were very promising. As you can see from the chart given here, when asked about whether the child informed about iCare activities at home, 42 parents out of 45 gave an affirmative answer. When asked whether they would participate in the iCare activity of preparing a cloth bag, almost all of them agreed to it. The idea of educating the parent on environmental issues via the child seemed to pay off. When the answers of the questionnaire sent home were collated, it was evident that the results were very positive. Nearly 90% of the parents agreed to make changes. Some of the answers to the questionnaire where parents were asked to turn off lights of computers and TV when not in use. About 95 parents agreed to it. Where the question of taking their own shopping bag to the stores was asked, again 95% parents agreed to it. Why do we call it a best practice? GMP students can be change makers for sustainability and will be environmentally literate and responsible future citizens. This is our belief and it is coming into practice because equipped with innovative changes in pedagogy, our students have more opportunities to acquire knowledge and skills to protect the environment and influence their parents, along with them, the society at large. We firmly believe that young generations are the new citizens who will inherit the responsibility of protecting the environment. If they are ready, they can educate others. I am extremely proud to share with you today that GMP program of Global Indian International School has won a lot of accolades. This is a result of adopting various pedagogies, hands-on learning activities, exposure to 21st century skills, and tackling real-world problems. I would like to end. Education is dynamic. At Global Montessori Plus, our endeavor is always to upgrade ourselves and make sure our little ones are at the forefront of the changing scenario of the 21st century. Becoming a future-ready kindergarten, developing mindsets of AI, entrepreneurship, and robotics, we feel sustainability and environmental literacy, which iCare emphasizes, are the key to the next generation's success. iCare is an integral pillar of GMP and is spearheading the change in the environmental awareness in the kindergarten segment. Parenting the parent via the child is helping in developing sustainability. We will continue to use innovative methods to make our students lifelong learners and shape future citizens of the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Borde. Wonderful presentation. Great work in shaping young minds.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We will now move on to the next presentation from Bans Sanghas SM Shetty, Educational Institutions for Y. We have with us Ms. Pratima Bhandarkar, Head Counseling Center. Welcome, ma'am, and wish you a wonderful presentation and a session with interaction with the judges.
Thank you so much, Maya ma'am, and thank you to IMC RBNQA. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Same here, and we thank you so much for taking that interest and being here with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I will just request our team to play the presentation. us SM Shetty Educational Institutions provide.
Hello and greetings to you all from Pratima Bhandarkar. Trust you all are safe and well. I'm here to present our best practice, comprehensive mental health approach, integrating mental health in education service delivery. World Health Organization reports 1 in 5 of the world's children and adolescents as having a mental disorder. Mental health conditions account for 16% of the global burden of disease and injury in youth aged 10 to 19 years. Globally, depression is one of the leading causes of illness and disability among adolescents. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goal of Health includes mental health and substance abuse in its targets. India's Mental Health Survey of 2016 shows nearly 50 million children suffering from mental illness. This alarming figure is because mental illness is not visible. Fear, lack of awareness and stigma stops people from reaching out and seeking help, and this number increases. The Counseling Center of Bansangha's SM Shetty Educational Institutions incorporates the global goals and objectives into its best practice and implementation at the micro level, thus mobilizing young minds to grow into emotionally resilient individuals. Our best practice, provides a suite of interventions that identify, assess, promote and protect the mental health and well-being of all our stakeholders. Why school, you may ask? About half of mental disorders begin by the age of 14 during school years. Serious mental health problems such as self-injurious behaviors and suicide are on the rise, particularly among the youth. School leaders, teachers, support staff and parents play a vital role in supporting the mental health and well-being of students. Children spend more time in school than any other formal institution, and hence schools play a pivotal role in educating children about mental health issues. Asha literally translates to hope and optimism, which is the objective of Kama. The four-pronged approach is about raising awareness about mental health, making it an acceptable term in the Indian context among children and parents, thus doing away with the stigma associated with it, empowering our children and youth to seek timely help for themselves and their peers, and preventing abuse of all kinds, substance abuse, child abuse and self-harm. Our team of psychologists and special educators have developed a mental health capsule to realize our vision of positive mental health for all, in line with the educational institution's mission statement of personality development for nation building. Psychological assessment tools have been developed for counseling and remedial education. Life skills education program was introduced in the school curriculum 3 years ago with results in subsequent slides. We have streamlined the process from identification to certification of learning disability, in addition to supporting students through their academic years. Human nature is complex, and hence we have also framed algorithms for what-if scenarios as a ready reckoner for timely intervention. For example, what if a parent refuses to get their child tested for learning disability? Or what if a student threatens suicide? Regular workshops with stakeholders are designed around prevalent social issues to enable and empower individuals. We have framed policies like drug and alcohol policy, child protection policy, and special educational needs policy, which have enabled teachers to recognize, respond, and refer students for timely intervention. We are an inclusive school. We have a diverse student body with children of different needs and abilities studying together in a mainstream setup. Holistic in nature, we have created a progressive and developing environment for all learners, whether children with average intelligence or with special needs. Inclusive practice in our school is not only about accommodations, but about integration and celebrating diversity. Keeping in mind neuromuscular development, a multi-purpose space is assigned for activities to enhance gross and fine motor skills and to provide recreational breaks. Shadow teachers are trained to individually assist the child's journey in the school. Teachers are oriented about special needs, and students are sensitized towards the needs of fellow classmates. With word of inclusive culture of our institution spreading, we are seeing an increase in the number of students with special needs seeking admission. While this year we had 15 students on the autism spectrum, new admissions has increased this to 20 children on the autism spectrum among 34 children with other special educational needs. Year on year, our students certified with learning disability have performed brilliantly with the mentoring offered in the school and provisions at the board examination level. All have scored either first class or distinction. We believe in gifting our students an all-weather durable pair of shoes in order to build their resilience, respond to failures, bounce back and thrive. While usually teachers refer students for counseling, with regular Let's Talk sessions, we are now seeing a trend of students dropping in to seek help for themselves or their friends. Mental health is far too important to be left to mental health professionals alone. Teachers are also trained periodically to be mental health soldiers, to identify signs of distress in a student and support colleagues in the staff room. Addressing teachers' mental health has been on the top of our list of priorities during the COVID situation too. Non-teaching staff also undergo annual training on the POCSO Act, and their mental health is addressed through de-stress sessions and individual counseling. Over the years, internal and external audits have commended our practices and processes. Management reviews, appraisals, and most importantly, feedback and opinion of our stakeholders has been instrumental in the improvement of our services. Capacity enhancement of parents is integral to our practice. A child is a product of his environment, and every generation brings with it its own set of challenges to parenting. In order to understand the child's emotional state, it's important to understand that of the parents. So on one school open house day, which coincided with World Mental Health Day, we undertook a clinical survey of parents' mental health. The findings, as featured in a newspaper article, reported that 41% of the parents were depressed, either mild, moderate or severe. All of them were offered one-to-one counseling. The 0.4% who were severely depressed were immediately referred to a psychiatrist for medication, but only 3% of the others took up the counseling services that were offered. Sleep deficit is a worrying trend in the youth nowadays, and this affects their daily functioning. To understand their sleep habits, we undertook a survey of 13 to 15-year-olds. We found that only 29% of the students slept for the recommended 7 to 9 hours, while 47% of them used gadgets before sleeping. 53% of them reported disturbed sleep. In order to educate parents and students about healthy sleep habits, we held a sleep hygiene awareness drive and engaged parents, students, and teachers through games that gave them tips for better sleep habits. 6 months later, we undertook the same survey, and the number of students sleeping for 7 to 9 hours had risen by 2%, gadget use had reduced by 3%, and lesser number of children reported having disturbed sleep. The Life Skills Education Program integrated in the school curriculum has received astounding feedback from parents, teachers, and students. Students reported that the LSE activities had helped them have a better understanding of themselves, it had improved their relationship with their friends and family, and most importantly, 91% of the students observed that bullying among students had reduced and that they were kinder to each other. We are humbled when our best practice receives recognition, when our students are uninhibited in their expressions of mental health, and when our students' smile is our ultimate reward. Responses from parents, teachers, and students to our survey of mental health services confirm that our best practice, is meeting the targets set out in ASHA mentioned earlier. Our stakeholders see the mental health services as an integral part of the educational institution. This is not a result of just a year's work, but awareness and promotion of emotional wellness has been the core of our work for the past 10 years. Our best practice goes beyond school gates, like sharing our practices with other schools, establishing links with our local police, and our maiden outreach venture aimed at spreading awareness of mental health in the community and the wider public via social media. There is no full stop to mental well-being. Wellness is a continuous endeavor, and we have miles to go on this journey. I end my presentation with a comma, and thank you for your time before leaving you with this short visual.
I think that was a wonderful presentation. So much the need of the hour. Got a very positive feeling too. So wish you the very best. Very good, excellent. Thank you so much, ma'am, for that presentation. Now we move on to our next organization, Global Indian International School, Tokyo. I would like to introduce our presenter, Mr. Kanak Arjun Wadkar, student. Natasha?
Yes.
I would like the spotlight on, Kanak Arjun Wadkar. Hello, hi.
Hello,
How are you?
How are you? I'm good, thank you.
Great. Nice to see you here, my dear. Wish you the very best.
Thank you.
I would like you to put the spotlight on Neena Shakti Kumar, Manager GCE. Hi, Neena. How are you?
Hello, welcome to everyone. Good afternoon, and we're doing good.
Yes, great. Nice to see you here, and I hope you have a wonderful presentation and session with the jury. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. May I request for the presentation being played, please? Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. I am Mahaviru Kawato from Global Indian International School, Tokyo. Today, my friend Kanak Arjun Wadkar, Ms. Neena, and myself will be jointly presenting our best practice to you. We are very honored to have this opportunity given to us by IMC to share our best practice on this platform.
We like to begin our presentation with a quote. A tree with strong roots laughs at storms. It's trusted that the best way to strengthen the roots is to nourish them when young. GIS Tokyo nurtures its students to men and women who will be leaders of distinction, not only rich in knowledge, but also rooted with best values. We'd like to share with you our best practice of expanding value addition to our students globally. Our project is named as UniVal Project, which is otherwise the Universal Value Project. Through this project, we aim to envision, empower, enable, and energize our students. As a school, GIS has a greater responsibility of building a new generation. Our best practices were developed with the objective of augmenting values, virtues, and skills which were of utmost importance along with their education. These values included sharing, caring, respect, tolerance, self-discipline, responsibility, perseverance, punctuality, honesty, teamwork, and kindness. Our school has a specific center called Mahatma Gandhi Center for Universal Values, which focuses primarily on creating activities, projects, and initiatives in this area. We plan to accomplish the same through specific initiatives built into our curriculum, including projects and educational practices with the goal of developing well-balanced students who can make a difference in this world. Last year, being Mahatma Gandhi's 150th birth anniversary year, we decided to share our best practices not only within our school, but also with our sister schools across the globe with the perspective of influencing more and more students. Such activities, projects, and observances were charted out and ensured that each value is embedded in them. Some of the examples are shown in the next slide. In the next slides, our students will be sharing their experiences of participating in the value-creating activities and projects.
To inculcate the value of sharing, caring, conserving, and realizing the value of money, the Food Drive project was initiated. We students helped our parents by doing simple chores at home and earned pocket money. With that earned money, we bought food to donate to NGOs who in turn donated it to the underprivileged. This project takes 2 to 3 months, and we've been doing the same for the past 3 years. Our school collectively donated 590 kgs of rice and sugar this year. Our local competitor schools have also adopted the same concept after being inspired by our success. More than that, we have shared the concept to our sister schools as well.
To instill the value of self-discipline and organizing, we initiated the project of 5S Inner School, even in our primary section. All the students participated by implementing the same in their classrooms. Some of them did the 5S in their homes as well.
We understood the values of responsibility, conservation, and teamwork as we participated in the Zero Resource Wastage project. Each of us tried mindfully our best to reduce usage of paper, water, power, and we also limited the wastage of food.
We, students, learned the value of respect and care when we got chances to interact with old age inmates. We sang song, made art along with them, and helped them in walking. Even our kindergarten friends participate regularly in such activities.
The Japanese tea-making ceremony is practiced with utmost sense of respect, both by the guest and the host. When we participated and learned the Japanese tea-making ceremony, we not only learned a new culture, but also learned the value of respect.
Thus, our objective of inculcating values was practiced locally and globally, and we were stepping closer towards the aim of attaining the mission of the school. These are the list of sister schools who participated along with us. This included schools in Singapore, Malaysia, UAE, India, as well as we from Japan.
These are the pictures of value-creating activities held in sister schools, which included leadership lectures on values by guest speakers, learning of values through presentation of skits, learning of respect through observances of Grandparents' Day, and learning of teamwork through group activities. Teachers and students shared the value of self-discipline with the neighboring schools by teaching them yoga. We invited them to our school and taught them yoga. It is interesting to note that our yoga teacher, Miss Yulia, is a Russian and teaches us Indian yoga.
We learned the values of patience and respect when we learned origami, the Japanese art of paper folding. Though we didn't understand much of their local language, we understood a lot about their values through the folding of each tiny piece of origami. We learned that language is not a barrier for learning and sharing values.
Values of responsibility was reinforced when our class participated in a web conference with a school in Mumbai, where each school shared their country's ways of conserving water.
GIS ensured that all sister campuses are on the same page by monitoring the progress of the project through bi-weekly calls, monthly reports, and web discussions. Our students also engaged in calls with friends of sister schools to engage progress and experiences with counterparts.
Overall monitoring of the progress of the project was done from April through December, except the holiday months. So in a span of 8 months, we were able to instill the values among 28,368 students who participated all across our campuses. This is a representation of the total number of hours and total classes who participated across our campuses. 810 hours in total was invested in various activities under the title of UniVal, and 1,334 classes participated across all our GOs. Over the years, the various activities under the umbrella of UniVal kept on increasing. At the beginning of the year, we keep a target and we try to exceed our target. The impact of these value addition activities are seen in the behavior of our students. Our aim was to include value creating activities more so that many more get influenced by the same. As a result, we've seen the reduction in the number of bullying cases before and after the project. Also, there was an increase in the total food collected and given to NGO, which means the number of students who learn the value of sharing and caring have increased year after year. Another case is the increase of Japanese students in our school, which is of course a business growth. And we believe truly that this is due to the value added and imparted in our students. Influence of these activities reflected when our competitor international school valued sharing and caring and adopted our food drive project. Such activities was also influenced by the local Japanese school by us teaching them the value of discipline through yoga, and in return, learning the value of patience and respect through origami and tea ceremony from them. The Student Happiness Index is a measurement of the collective happiness of students at school. And this shows the overall atmosphere of students, which was evolved through our value creating activities. You can see the continuous increase of the index in the past 3 years. ASASA, all students, all subjects average, is the direct result of academics of all students of the school. As you can see in the graph, there is a stark difference between our results as well as our competitors' results. And we firmly believe that it is due to the healthy atmosphere of the school and the overall effect of the academic efforts as well as our value creating efforts. Through the Student Learning Index, we try to measure the learning in terms of academic knowledge as well as the value additions the child has gained during his life spent with us. With the value addition activities, our learning indices are on an increasing trend. These are testimonies shared by 2 of our students and 1 of our teachers.
Our best practice is unique as we are able to envision, enable, empower, and energize our students through universal value projects. From projects within the school to our neighbor schools to our sister schools across the globe, thus influencing more and more students to be well-balanced citizens, as we hope that effective schools could create a next generation, not only skilled in academics, but also rich in social values.
Thank you for listening and hope you enjoyed our presentation.
Thank you so much, Nina, for that wonderful presentation on instilling values along with focusing on academic excellence. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. Now we come to the end of our session with various presentations from the educational institutions. I'm sure each one of you have enjoyed it and taken great learnings. We will now move on to the very important question and answer session with the judges. The sequencing would be as per the presentations that was scheduled. We request our judges to please now be in the spotlight and unmute yourself and keep on the video icon.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam.
Yes. Yeah, tell me. Sorry?
It's really great to listen to all of the presenters and
yeah.
Energy-filled session, as you had told in the beginning itself.
Yes. I always have got this, we have always observed the education session becomes so vibrant. So that is what I had expressed my inputs, Yeah.
I have with me my co-judge.
Yeah, Suhas Vaidya.
Yes.
Before starting our Q&A sessions, we would make a statutory statement. It says that you can treat us as dull students of your class who want to know more about your presentations. So we are slow learners. Okay, it's not to question what you have done; it's to understand more about what you have presented. So please keep it in the right spirit.
No problem. Okay. So should we start, sir?
Yeah.
Should we start? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So we can start off with the Global Indian International School East Coast Campus, Singapore. Can we have Shriyans Madhikanta and Ms. Padmarani Srivatsan, please?
We are. Yes.
Yeah. You will be in the spotlight now, so the judges can interact better.
I think my video I'm not able to start because I think somebody has stopped it.
Oh,
we just get it sorted.
Yeah. So, yes.
Yes, hello Shriyans. It was a really great presentation. You look like a professional. Huh?
Okay. Hello, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. I have a couple of questions. During your presentation, you had a couple of slides on, you had conducted some community outreach programs also. Yeah. How did you measure the impact of your community outreach programs?
So basically, as you said, the community outreach programs, we went to different malls, we went to different events on different days, such as school green day, etc. So over there, when we presented our initiative, our best practice, when the public heard us, when we told them about our practice, they were very enthusiastic to hear, and they were quite impressed with what we are doing, and they were also quite interested because it's something unique about newspaper bin liners and aerobic composting. So they were keen to hear more, and we have also taken feedback from our students, teachers, on what they feel about this initiative. And also we also have various ambassadors, such as green ambassadors, energy ambassadors, who manage the entire process. They initiate the process, they ensure the continuity of the process, and so basically it ensures that everything goes smooth and everyone is very much involved in the process, and this is how we manage our initiatives.
Okay.
I would like to add to it. I would like to, when you said how we take a feedback from our people who come there when we go out for creating awareness in public places or events that are conducted by Singapore government. Normally, because most of them are Chinese speaking, so we fill the feedback form where we get their feedback about how they felt about the program. And in most of the programs where we went, since it was a public place, and we just when we talk about making newspaper bin liners, so we everywhere we found about 100 plus parents, people coming and taking part in our initiatives.
Thank you, madam. Over to Mr. Vaidya.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shetty. It was a good presentation and a lot of good work is done. I have one question as to why was only the bin liner as a target for reduction of single-use plastic is being taken up? Was there any other options were explored and you identified this being the major contributor as a single-use plastic?
So as I had mentioned in my verbal text, so we have had quite a few statistics, data about bin liners going to landfills, and as we know that plastic is a major amount of trash going to the landfill, and hence at school level or at domestic level, reducing plastic bin liners are a great advantage, is a great initiative to reduce the amount of single-use plastic. Because even at our school, when we used to have plastic bin liners, the amount of trash which went into the bin every day was very minimal, very less, and every day these plastic bin liners were changed. So the amount of waste going to the landfills, and this was also not recycled. So we chose newspaper bin liners as our best practice in order to make the reduction of plastic at a large scale interesting for our community. And this is also an easy practice because it can be implemented by anyone, anywhere, and at almost no cost. It only requires a newspaper, and hence this is what encouraged us to take up newspaper bin liners as our initiative. And that is why rather than choosing any other way of reducing plastic, we took up newspaper bin liners.
Yeah,
Okay,
I would like to add. I would like to add in this. We do have a lot of other green initiatives in the school, so we try to add upon every year so that we don't go stagnant and say that we have a green campus and we are working on water, we are working on electricity, things like that. But we want to, touch upon every topic and do, continue with what we did last year, add on to something else every year, so that we touch every topic that is related to the environment. We have many other initiatives in process, like Tetra Pak recycling, which is going great in our campus, and we have electronic waste bin, where it's a special bin assigned to collect electronic waste, we know, which is causing a lot of hazard in the environment. And also we do have a cloth initiative where parents send their bags, school bag, marketing bags, where they go and shop for shopping. So we have these initiatives where parents donate that, and we give it to a local organization here, which is given to some migrant workers when they go for shopping. So reducing plastic this initiative was taken this year, when we saw that the bins in every class was not fully filled and it was going to waste. So we started initially at kindergarten, and then now we have extended it to other classes also. That's why when you see our slides, we started with a small number just to see how it works, and then now we have involved everyone in the campus to do this, so that we also reduce food waste when we say that. And we want to reduce as much as plastic, and also the carbon footprint that we want to stop.
Okay, great work. All the best to you, team.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Do you have any questions from the audience?
No questions have come so far. Yeah. Okay.
Shall we move on?
Yeah. I
Madam,
think now we will move on to Vishnu Education Society, Hyderabad. Can we have Dr. VVR Maheshwar Rao, please?
Yes, madam, yes.
Yes. So over to the judges, yeah.
Dr. Rao, thank you for a very informative presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
As a part of Knowledge Center facility, you have provided n number of programs and labs.
Yes, sir.
My question is, how do you assess the impact of each of these facilities, like you have a robotics lab or other labs? So how do you assess the effectiveness of each of these facilities?
Yes, sir. We have the mechanism of measuring these things when you go for the competitive exams with compared to the private school children. So actually our center is located in the rural part of the Bhimavaram. So there we have only Jilla Parishad and municipal high schools. And in the Bhimavaram and in some places we have private schools. When our children in the sense our trained children compare in the competitive exams, they are scoring well. That is one benchmark we have. That is one measure we are taking. And the what you can call it as the rural women, those who are in the rural part, they are also able to use all these digital facilities nowadays, all because of this knowledge centers.
Okay. Over to Mr. Vaidya.
Okay. Very nice work, Dr. Rao.
Thank you.
I have basically two questions. One, I see you had reaching out to large number of schools probably and giving them some kind of an excellence center to know what is happening around in terms of latest. So how do you keep track of those children in terms of their incremental needs, like children who are from 5th standard coming to 8th standards, and if they are visiting the same facilities, how do you actually separate between their understanding, knowledge, impartation, etc.?
Yes, sir. We have a dedicated teaching faculty, number one. We have our own, what you can call it as a syllabus, and we are also having the schedules in line with the government school syllabuses. So for the 6th class, the experiments, for the 6th class, the content is different from the 7th class. Similar to the 8th standard, 7th, maybe similar, maybe the different for the 10th class. So our team is going to sit with the maybe the government school headmasters and the concerned teachers We are planning accordingly the both content as the labs, but there we don't have the lab facilities in the government schools. Those things we are providing here, and so that our team is able to meet those requirements at their levels, starting with the 6th class to the 10th class.
Okay, 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 great, fine. Just one more question is like, what is the total number of students you've been touching around in terms of?
Per annum, 1700 to 1800 we are reaching. So far, more than 22,000 children we met, sir.
All right. Okay, thank you. Nice presentation. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any
Thank
more
you, one and all.
questions for Dr. Rao? Okay. From the audience?
Any questions from the audience?
Okay. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We move
thank
on.
you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you. We move on to our next institution. May I request Pratima Bhandarkar, Head Counseling Center for Bansanga International, Bansanga's SM Shetty Educational Institution. Can we have her on spotlight so the judges can have an interaction with her? Yes, ma'am. Over to the judges.
Ms. Bhandarkar, it was a great presentation. It was nice listening to the concept of mental health capsule and the way how you share your best practices. I have a question. You spoke about what if algorithms during the course of your presentation. How do you record and measure the effectiveness of these algorithms?
So these algorithms are situations which we at that time we are not foreseeing. So when a child is actually, as for example, has made statements of, may had some suicidal ideations, for example, and is having some suicidal thoughts and speaks to the teacher or speaks to or just share this with a friend. What we know is we have these students coming to us. So how we see the effectiveness of these algorithms is, we see that it is immediately there is an action taken. Immediately, at least we know, these algorithms are actually installed in our policies. And our teachers are educated about these policies to look at it. It's in our child protection policy, how to protect a child if a child is making such statements. So it is about looking at how we can help the child at that very instant. And the teacher is the first point of contact, or the friend is a point of contact, or any other non-teaching staff is a point of contact. The fact that we get to know through everybody, this is percolated throughout, making it a safe place. We see this as our reaching out to our students immediately with a timely intervention, getting there straight away. So this is how we deal with our algorithms, sir.
Then you came up with the concept of shadow teachers.
Yes.
Yeah. How did you, is it that all the teachers act as shadow teachers, or specific teachers are identified and then assigned? How does it go?
So shadow teachers are individuals who are appointed by the parent of the child with disability. A child who has any special educational needs is supported in the classroom with another individual who is literally a shadow with the child, who supports the child throughout the time that the child is in the school, and also helps the child not only academically but also emotionally, behaviorally, making friends. Because as an inclusive setup, we have children from all backgrounds coming to the school. So this child is integrated within the mainstream setup. These are individuals, these are not the teachers who are of the school. These are the parents who we encourage to appoint. We vet these shadow teachers. We train the shadow teachers, because each child with special educational need is different. Each need is different. So training these children, training these teachers on an individual level and collectively also, because they are taking on many things of helping the child throughout their journey and making it a very seamless process for the child within the mainstream school. This is the role of the shadow teacher. Yeah.
Thank you, madam. Over to Mr. Vaidya.
Okay, so wonderful presentation and great work, of course, on the children, which will help them for a long. I just wanted one question on the mental health. When we talk about the children, basically the special needs children is separate, but even the normal kid, otherwise, to know he has some issues or etc. Does your academy or the institution provides a standard time for you to reach out children in a regular classes, or is it only on the basis of certain inputs from class teachers or some reports coming in, etc.?
Okay. So the counseling center is based in the infrastructure of the educational institution. So we are physically present in the institution. We go into the classrooms. Although we have an orientation at the beginning of the year with all the teachers of the schools as well as the college. So it's an orientation to say who we are, what to look out for. So the teachers are our first point of contact. However, teachers have an academic role to play. Sometimes if it gets missed, so we actually go into the classrooms. We have workshops with the students. We have classroom workshops with the students, with the teachers and the parents as well. We also reach out to the parents at the start of the academic year through, we send notices to the parents to say that we are the counseling center, do reach out, it's a free service, contact us on so and so number, our working hours. Throughout the school hours, our school actually works in shifts from the morning right up to the evening. And throughout the time that the children are in school, we have the counseling center fully operational. Children have started walking in on their own without being referred by the teachers, which we see is a big plus in opening up the dialogue on mental health. And we also have, students can reach out to us even out of hours. They have our contact numbers, and the college students, they do not want to speak to their parents about certain things. So they contact us, especially during this COVID situation. They have contacted us individually to the counselors, and they have sought help in terms of the anxiety increasing or their stress level increasing or depressive thoughts increasing. So the openness is there, the willingness is there, and that culture of, the acceptance of mental health and having that open dialogue has actually worked in the favor in this current situation actually. So there is no specific time. It's open for children to come in anytime. It's an open door for the children to walk in to the counseling center. We are accessible anytime.
Okay, thank you. No more questions.
There's been some question. No, Dr. Dashrath, if you can read it out to her, it would be great.
There is a question from Ms. Maria. The question is, how do you manage students who show suicidal tendencies? Do you refer them out or manage within your existing resources?
We believe we are not an individual or a unilateral entity. We work in a multidisciplinary setup. So we have our resources in terms of our support network for ourselves is whether it's psychiatrists, whether it is developmental pediatricians. So young people who have actually presented these thoughts, our protocol, as I said, that is one of the algorithms, Dr. Shetty, that you had asked about. When a child is presenting the immediate thing is to get this child tested or this young person screened for depression. So, and a psychiatric intervention is recommended immediately. We refer the student to the psychiatrist. Sometimes we get resistance either from the parent, but we have also had situations wherein we have taken the student to the psychiatrist for medication. So even during this COVID situation, we have had situations wherein young people have contacted and expressed. So it's about talking. It's about getting the young person to speak about what is going on in their mind. We do not claim to have solutions to every problem, but we are here to look at where we can go to seek help for this child. What's the right kind of approach, right kind of support for that particular individual. So as I said, this is, we do reach out to the relevance because we are actually a team of professionally qualified psychologists. We have clinical psychologists, counseling psychologists, and special educators. So we are trained to handle such situations. However, some situations require medical intervention. And for that, actually, we also have, one of the senior psychiatrists of the country who's on our board of trustees. So our management also is very much aligned to this cause. So we reach out to the psychiatrist. We also reach anywhere locally to where the student lives or the parent is.
There's one more follow-up question by Ms. Maria. What measures do you follow during COVID for special students?
Okay, these students are actually currently in their homes. But the special needs students that we have, I will just clarify that we have children on the autism spectrum, global developmental delay, Down syndrome, more so students on the autism spectrum, and no two children on the autism spectrum are the same. So we tailor every kind of intervention as per the need of the child. Our counselor and our special educator is in constant touch with the parent and the student, either through the Zoom call or through any kind of an interface, so that there is this touch. Of course, it's very difficult for young people, for children with special educational needs who are suddenly come out of their routine, and we have put them in touch with the professionals who they can help with. There is Forum for Autism, who has a network of professionals and parents, so speaking to other parents. But from our point of view, we made it a point to contact each and every student who has a special needs, and to speak to the parent and offer that support, because the parent also feels very much alone and isolated at that time. So this is the measures that we have put in place, and it's ongoing because we are all within our homes right now.
We'll have one more question, but we'll answer it in a very precise manner because we are running short of time. The next question is, what trainings are given to teachers to handle special needs students?
Okay. There is an orientation at the beginning of the academic year, as we said, for special needs also. But for every special need also, for example, autism, in the class, there is a sensitization program that is done with the teacher and all the teachers who's teaching that particular class. So about autism, it is about what autism entails, what is the kind of behaviors, what support can be offered, how the teacher can, what is the communication that the teacher can have, and having the shadow teacher also be part of that kind of a training with the teacher. So that is throughout the year we have these with the students on all kinds of special education needs that is pertaining to the students currently in the school.
Thank you, madam. I think we don't have any more questions. Over to Maya, madam.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am, for that wonderful interaction.
Madam, I think we have one school, that's GIS.
Yeah, GIS Tokyo, and we are well in time also, so no
GIS
issue.
Balewadi, madam. That third.
Yeah, Balewadi.
Oh, did you? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm extremely sorry about that. May I request Vaishali Borde, ma'am, from the National Head GMP from Global Indian International School, Balewadi, to be in the spotlight now?
Right.
Sorry, ma'am. My apologies to you.
No, that's perfectly
really,
okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah. Okay.
Ms.
So over to the judges. Yeah.
Ms. Borde, thank you for the wonderful presentation. I just want to know what's the average age of the students who are part of your Montessori class. Why I'm asking this is because what is their position in understanding the environmental concept at this early age?
Right. As I mentioned in the presentation, our children are mostly in the kindergarten age, that is 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. And as you rightly said, the understanding of environmental education is that is not there at that age. But we believe in the Montessori method of teaching, and that is to go from the concrete to the abstract. So what we do is we conduct these kind of activities with them, hands-on learning, in which we do a lot of discussion, because children are very inquisitive at this age. So they want to know the why, the who, the where of each and everything. So what we are taking that as a added incentive for us, and we take this natural curiosity. We introduce them to various subjects related to environmental science without making it obvious that this is environmental education. We do the hands-on activity, and we also then measure whether they have understood what we are talking about. So we believe that if a seed is, planted at the right time, then it will definitely grow into a big plant when the right time comes.
Madam, of course, the kids should go back to their houses and discuss with your parents and convey the message. Apart from that, what are the other mechanisms do you follow up? In the sense, how do you educate the parents? Because when I went through the questions, there was one of the questions where the parents tell that they have used stopped using detergents and they have started using soap powders and so on. These are complex things. So, what are the other communication mechanisms where you interact with the parents?
Our co-founder, late Justice Chandrasekhar Dharmadhikari ji, it was his vision that we have to educate the family, the parent, through the child. So in keeping that in mind, we have a lot of parent engagement activities which we keep doing, in which we call the parent over to the school and we have these lecture series with them. We talk to them, we bring eminent speakers from different subjects. They come over and they talk to the parent. But we found that, that is not sufficient. What is needed is, for a kindergarten child, what the teacher says and what the home says, it shouldn't be two different things. So whatever activity or whatever hands-on learning is happening in the classroom, we make it a point that we send the details home in the form of a newsletter, informing them that this is how we have discussed, this is what we have done in the class, and now it is your turn to make sure that it is reinforced in the house. So that is the way we have this bridge between the parents and the children. And when we talk to the parents, we give them extended activities like the one which is mentioned about detergents and all. There is one more, I think you might have missed that out, but there is something like, traffic rules. That is something, especially in India, we find that parents are very, very quickly they'll cross a red light, or they will not stop at a no parking. They will park their car or two-wheeler somewhere where it's not supposed to be done. So when we educate the child, we tell them that how harmful this can be. The message goes home, and they then tick off the parents at the right time that, Papa, you're driving very fast, you didn't wear the seat belt, or you have to stop at the red light. So that is our way of reaching out to the parents through the child.
Thank you, madam. Over to Mr. Vaidya.
No, great. I think some questions which I had, you already had covered. So great work with the children, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions for ma'am? Dr. Shetty? That come from the audience. Any questions? No?
No,
Okay.
there is no question there.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for your time. Yeah. So now we move on to the last presenter. We have from Global Indian International School, Tokyo, Mr. Kanak Arjun Wadkar and Neena Shakti Kumar. Can we have spotlights on them, please? Mr. Kanak Arjun Wadkar. And hi. Okay, and Neena Shakti Kumar. Over to the judges. You can ask the questions. I think they will be
Yeah, it was a great presentation by three of you, Neena, Kanak, and I don't know how to pronounce Maharu, right?
Maharu, yes.
Yes. I have a couple of questions. Now, how do you measure the impact of your various programs and how it has changed the student lives? So you have used two indices. That is, one is the happiness index and one more is the average subject score index.
There is one more, sir.
And one more is
student learning index.
Learning index. So you have three indices. So how do you, first of all, how did you come up with these three indices? What was the method followed to come up with these metrics? And how do you connect these metrics to the value system? Yeah.
Thank you very much for the question, sir. So I will answer one by one. For happiness index is actually measured by a survey which is conducted among the students on different questions. The different parameters are how happy they are at school, how happy they are with the whole environment of the school. Are their friends, tolerant? Do they respect each other? So based on these questions, we sent out a survey to all our students, and based on the survey, the happiness index is calculated. And this is...
Can I interrupt you, if you don't mind? In the sense, how did you come up with these questions? Is it like, usually we measure happiness using PERMA model and various set of other models. How did you come up with this happiness index? Or is it, is it not related to your current work now?
It is actually designed by our head office, and you have the unique system which is across all our geos also. We measure, because there is the purpose of education is also that we want to make sure all our students are happy in our school. And it is not only the results of the academic marks would they gain, it's also a result of how happy with a positive feeling and how friendly the friends are, how teachers are to them. So it's a combination of everything, sir.
Okay, ma'am, you can skip this question, because I think my basic question is, how do you relate the impact of value studies on these three indices? Like, did these three indices go on their own, or how did the value system impact these indices?
So what we are trying, excuse me, 1 second, please. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to create we wanted to have the DNA, all these values embedded in the DNA of our students. So when we embed the value to our students, we need to measure whether we are doing it correct. So we designed that we want all these things: the happiness, the student learning index. And student learning index is actually the combination of academics as well as the non-academics factors. And we have in our school 9 gems, which touches upon various gems, which includes the leadership skills, which includes the sports skills, which includes the ethics. All these things are actually measured. So based on the 9 gems, we have calculated the student learning index. So based on that, so all these values have a connection to these student learning index.
Yeah, thank you. Over to Mr. Vaidya.
Okay, so a great presentation, and of course, it's well structured in terms of the entire activity integration, as well as I see, to achieve certain outputs in terms of the children values in the children. Now, my question is, how many students participate, whether how it is children driven or is it more school driven as a structured activity?
It is a combination, sir. And the difference, actually, let me begin. The difference, what it makes is because our school, the whole idea started from Tokyo, and then we wanted to include more and more students. So we did not limit with our school. We expanded it to our neighboring schools. We expanded it to our sister schools. So it is actually many of our sister schools, as you have seen in the presentation also, are a part of various activities that we do.
Okay, so participate as in, so they would be doing similar activities in the country they are, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
So
no, my question is only about the institution in Tokyo, about the participation and how these programs are then children driven. Probably you may have some committees of the children, or some groups of the children, like clubs and etc. So how is it self-driven model? Is it a self-driven?
Yes, Kana, go ahead.
Sure. So, we of course, our school has a student council, and the student council is obviously very. So they act like a bridge between the teachers and the students. So this year, I am a part of the student council. I am the UNIVAL representative of the school. This is basically what the whole PPT is about: universal values, UNIVAL representative. And what we do is, as you might have seen in the PPT, there are various projects, like you could see Drive the Pantry. They're all mostly student initiated. And the teachers participate with the students by donating to certain organizations. We donate to Second Harvest. The teachers come in with the students to obviously form a team as a school, as one platform, and then we go ahead with the thing. So it's more like a student-based thing, and teachers come in and obviously guide us. And the student council, they act like a bridge, and they initiate it, and they basically initiate the whole program.
Okay, so it is managed by the student council.
Yes, we guide the children to, obviously, because our school believes in setting out global global citizens. As we get out of school life, we have to be global citizens by following the core values of GIS.
Okay, good. Just one more question. Does the school have any reporting mechanism for the children besides when the school initiates or the council initiates and the children pitch in and do a lot of good work? Besides that, there may be individually some children who may be doing good work related to all of these values you are trying to inculcate in them. So do we have a mechanism or a logging mechanism where you can collect that besides school supported activity, beyond that, how students in their personal lives are actually practicing this?
I can answer that.
Yeah.
I can answer very, we have not given in the presentation. However, actually one good example is a very recent one where one of our students of grade 6, she came up during our summer fiesta, which is a summer fair. She came up to us and she told us that I want to participate in the summer fiesta in setting up a booth and the collection from the booth, which is basically making lemonade, very simple thing. And the collections from the booth, she wanted to contribute to a cancer society because she feels there is a value in that. So that is just one example. It was not driven from the school. It came from the students. Similarly, whatever some of the zero wastage you have seen in our slide is also the idea which came from the students. We are just facilitators to make it better and make it all across.
Okay, great. Thank you. No more questions. Yeah, over to Maya.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to the judges. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think now it is time for our judges to get into the, sorry. Yeah.
I think we don't have any questions from the audience, sir.
Okay. So do we close the Q&A? So?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now I would request you to, proceed towards the breakout rooms. You will be guided by the team. And you'll take around 10 minutes for coming to a decision. We will have the second runner-up, first runner-up, and the main trophy winner. So I would request you to converge and have your discussions and we'll be able to announce the recognitions for the participants. Yes, sir? Hello?
Maya, they have gone to the
They have gone, na? Yes, very good. Okay, Natasha, can we have to wait till the judges make their announcements? May I request all our audiences and the viewers and others who are there from the participating organizations to just take a quick poll. Every one of you would have received a detailed feedback form earlier from Manjusha. So that would be something you will have to send it across later. But right now, if you can do a quick poll for us, that would help us to rate ourselves as to how this session went about. Natasha, may I request you to play show the poll slide?
Yes, Maya, just launching it.
Yeah. Here I would say that at the bottom you'll find a submit button. Once you respond to this, just one question and a quick answer, you will have to press the submit button for us to register your response. It will just take a minute or two maximum.
We'll wait for another 30 seconds more and then we'll share the results.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll just share the results now.
Yeah. Excellent. We have got 86.7% voting for excellent, 13.3% good, and yes, this time fair is also not like not good also has been. So we are very happy. Thank you so much for your response. And if any, please detailed feedback, you can elaborate on how best we can improve further on our programs and the sessions. Yeah. In the meanwhile, now that the judges are inside conferring on the final decisions, I would like to, for those who have been with us since morning, for the first session 1 to inaugural as well as the session 1, this could be a repeat, so please bear with me. I would like to announce that we have launched this new initiative called Excellence in Crisis, to take, understand stories. There will be some wonderful stories of meeting with challenges and facing certain constraints in this turbulent times and the pandemic time. So it was thought that why not take absolute response from all organizations and make it into a sort of a competition. So the newly formed awards committee under the chairmanship of Mr. Suresh Lulla, who is also our founder, a mentor, he had set up the awards committee with Mr. Umesh Dand, Suman Pai, and Mr. Johnson George. They're all our examiners and faculty, and this team have a lot of brainstorming done. And Suman Pai talked about how it would be wonderful to capture these stories which people would want to share with the world, and so it becomes a great learning also. So that triggered off this entire concept of excellence in crisis. It's all that you have to do is, the entry is absolutely free. It's just up to around 30 pages of submission, and there are some 5 parameters that we've created. It's all on the website too, you can have a look at it. Now, this is focusing mainly on the leadership and how you managed your workforce and how have you met these various issues, and with the work from home also happening so predominantly. So it's a great, interesting and exciting journey, I would say, to all organizations who are absolutely always gung-ho about meeting with challenges and seeing how to take everything forward. So do submit in your inputs against it's on the website, like I said. It's up to 30 pages, initial submission free, and the shortlisted organizations will be required to pay a fee of 10,000 to move forward to the last level of the presentations and recognitions. In all of this, the organizations across sectors of business, healthcare, education, NGOs, all of you all can apply against this 5 criteria. Everybody has to respond to those 5 parameters. That's compulsory. However, the recognitions would be presented in 3 main categories. That is crisis superheroes, innovating during a crisis, and learning from a crisis. I'm sure it would be interesting for you all. You would have lots and lots to talk about. We would request the submission of reports by the 24th of July. This would be judged. The judges have arrived at a decision. I'll just take a minute to close the timelines. The assessment will be done by our team of examiners from the 27th of July to the 5th of August. The preview of the judges would be from the 8th to the 12th August, that is allocated for them. We will be announcing the winners on the 14th of August, just before our Independence Day celebrations. And we will have an online program. I look forward to your queries. You can call me up anytime. I will take you through the entire process, and do look up the website. Okay, we are looking forward to the announcement of the winners. I request our judges to please come forward and give us the good news. Yeah.
The judges are leaving the meeting room. They are out.
Oh, okay.
They've just come.
Okay. So we'll have them on the spotlight, no, Natasha? Okay, hello. So yes, waiting with a lot of excitement to the results. May I request the judges to please announce?
Yes.
Right from the second runner-up, the first runner-up, and the main winner.
Yeah, we did not have any difficulty in arriving
Okay.
at the decision. It was unanimous decision, all the 3 spots. And,
Very good. Great.
Yeah, thanks to Maya for putting the 2 judges, like-minded judges together. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And
Yeah.
thank you for your contribution.
Yeah. The second runner-up spot goes to GIS Tokyo.
Oh, wonderful. We'll have to do a virtual clap for the absolutely brilliant organization. Congratulations, GIS Tokyo, for the second runner-up certificate.
Congratulations, GIS Tokyo.
Yeah.
Congratulations to them.
Now,
the first runner-up is Sri Vishnu Education
Okay.
Society.
Absolutely
Okay,
brilliant.
so the first runner-up is Sri Vishnu Education Society with their all outreach with the people and the students.
Great. Yeah.
Congratulations to them. Congratulations to them. And of course, the main winner, Dr. Shetty.
The trophy winner is Bansanga SM Shetty Education Institutions. Congratulations.
Wow, congratulations. That is brilliant work. So Bansanga's SM Shetty Education Institutions Powai receives the MQH trophy in the education category. May I request Ms. Pratima Bhandarkar to please come forward. We would just like to know her feedback on this winning moment.
What can I say? I'm really speechless, Maya ma'am. I'm so thrilled to see and be part of such a prestigious platform and hear so many other schools with such brilliant initiatives. And I'm humbled to be part of that. And thank you to both the judges for seeing where all this is coming from. And all I can say is I'm really gobsmacked. I'm speechless.
No, but
Thank
that
you.
you all are
It's an
doing
honor.
brilliant work. No, we really were mesmerized with the work that you've done. Judges
you,
have a
Mike.
few words to say, I think so now. So you can.
I will start with Mr. Vaidya.
Yeah, it was a great work. I think it is a very apt, focused topic necessary in the current situation, not just about the COVID, it's all about the whole challenges the children faces this time in terms of small families, larger travel times, and too much of studies and co-curricular activities and all of those. So building their mental framework is very, very essential so that they can take up bigger challenges as they grow. So great work done by your team. Congratulations and good luck for your great work.
Thank you so much. I dedicate this win completely to the students, to the teachers, to the non-teaching staff, to the management, to the parents and the and my team, of course, who's rooting here. So thank you so much. It's all for them. It's all for them and by them.
Thank you, ma'am. Congratulations once again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. With this, and thank you to the judges, Dr. Shetty and Mr. Vaidya. You all were fabulous, and thank you for your time so much to listen to these wonderful presentations and do due justice to each one of them. Thank you so much, sir.
I think Dashrath wanted to say something.
Yeah, Dashrath, please.
You have already concluded. It's done.
No. If you want to say, this is a free platform.
Anyway, it was great participating as a judge, and even if not as a judge, I would have participated just as a participant listening to your presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Really great, and it was great to see all the students participate and present like professionals, and it was easy for them because they were part of the whole system or the whole process. It was and better luck next time. Thank you one and all. Thank you, Maya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you,
Maya, I would
Mr.
just add
Vaidya.
a
Yeah,
one-liner.
please
Actually,
tell me, sir.
even
Tell
for
me.
the other schools, actually speaking, it's all that the topics of for best practices where environment is been. So it actually says that how much important environment is, of course, and the schools are actually working at the smallest part of the in the sense, not as a society, but the children who will be the next adults when they will practice all of that which what they are learning and practicing now. So
Yes.
I my compliments to all the schools who participated and the excellent work they are doing in ensuring that the children grows up with those good practices related to environment and makes this entire earth a better place to live in future.
Yeah.
So
Thank you,
good luck
sir.
and all the best to all of them.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words. I hope it will be an encouraging one for all the organizations that are with us. With this, we conclude today's session on the education category. See you all tomorrow. We have got the NGOs and the healthcare sector, along with the service category, all aligned for tomorrow. And it starts at 11 a.m. And we look forward to your enthusiastic participation. So see you tomorrow. Till then, thank you so much for your being part of this process. And good night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.